Welcome back to the channel, everybody. Today's video is going to be about House Bill 3565, which was being discussed at the Texas State Legislature on May 1st, 2025. What they're doing, they're trying to turn interference with public duties, which is a misdemeanor, they're trying to turn it into a felony. And this has nothing to do with people interfering with the police. This has everything to do with Tarrant County and this man, the prosecutor. They hate people who record the police, and they hate the First Amendment. You're going to hear this man, William Vassar, say in a minute, this isn't about cussing, but I wish it was. It's sad that it's not about cussing. So he's basically admitting he doesn't like people who cuss, and he's sad that they're allowed to cuss. That's what I got from it. You guys are going to see it for yourselves in a minute. But like I said, this has nothing to do with people that are interfering with the police, because all the people that are against it, all they talk about is the people that are recording police. And this guy, William Vassar, is a liar. He's going to prove it in just a minute, because he's going to say, we're not trying to say that you can't cuss or holler at police, because that's a First Amendment protected activity. The Supreme Court ruled in the city of Houston versus Hill that your abusive speech towards police officers is part of the First Amendment. But then when he's trying to explain to these legislatures why they should turn it into a felony, his main argument is people are hollering and cussing at the police. You can't make this stuff up, folks. This guy, William Vassar, I personally watched him prosecute Manuel Mata for interference with public duties. It's a misdemeanor. And what happened was the police officer told Manuel Mata to stand behind a crack. There was 1,000 cracks in the concrete. Manuel Mata said, "What crack?" The officer says, "I'm telling you, behind that crack or you're getting arrested." He said he took a step back. "What crack?" And they arrested him. This guy prosecuted it, and he got a bootlicking jury, and they convicted Manuel Mata on that. Manuel Mata has done at least a month in jail over that and paid fines and, on probation. That's not good enough for this guy. He wants Manuel Mata in prison for recording the police and anybody else that records the police. This is an attack on the First Amendment. This is an attack on America. Make sure you email or call your state legislatures and tell them to squash this House Bill 3565. Let's play the video.
Nobody is saying you can't film the police. Sadly, whether we like it or not, nobody is saying you can't cuss, scream at, or antagonize the police. What we are saying is you just can't interfere with their ability to investigate a case. What we are seeing in Tarrant County are individuals are inserting themselves on traffic stops. They're inserting themselves on domestic violence investigations. They're inserting themselves on warrant service, where police officers are trying to arrest violent fugitives. They're running up to police officers with their cameras. They are screaming at them. They are cussing at them. They're demanding their name and badge number, and they are physically getting in their investigation.
See what I said in the introduction? Everything that I said was just proven by what he said. This guy's a liar, and this is not about interference with public duties. It is about people who are recording the police. He wants it outlawed. He wants to punish people with prison and felonies who record the police. Here is this penal code. It's already way too vague. Cops use this all the time to arrest people that won't obey unlawful orders and stand in places that people don't have to stand. This is America. We don't have to go stand across the street if you tell us to. Put up crime scene tape. But look how vague this is, okay? And another thing, he told another lie. He says they're running up and getting right in officers' faces. I've never seen that ever happen. The only time I've ever seen people, cop watchers, that close to police and the camera in their face is when cops walk up to us and get in our face.
Thank you, Chairman Louderback and members for the opportunity to present House Bill 3565.
Here's my email that I emailed to my state legislature representative, telling them to quash this bill, squash it. Everybody should call your representative and do the same, or email them.
Quick, I know that others are waiting, but basically, currently under Section 38.15A of the Penal Code, a person commits the Class B misdemeanor offense of interference with public duties if they disrupt, interrupt, impede, or interfere with the following public servants while they are conducting their official duties. Peace officers or police canines, EMS and fire, animal control, and county public health, environmental radiation, or safety officials. For these public servants, every day and every counter on the job is inherently dangerous, as you know, Chairman. Specifically for law enforcement, when an officer is working a traffic stop or accident scene, dealing with an outside party who is screaming or encroaching the officer's physical space can cause unnecessary distractions and escalation. Additionally, the officer may have to call for backup to deal with the outside party, taking precious resources away from other emergency calls.
Everything that he just described is protected under the First Amendment. And here's another thing. They're trying to say that, oh, when cop watchers show up, precious resources, we have to call another person to come and watch them. You know, where's these precious resources at when they have 8 cops show up to somebody who's got a tag light out? We see it all the time.
In Tarrant County, some individuals actively seek out opportunities to interfere with law enforcement during service calls, film the encounters, and post them to YouTube where the footage is monetized. The current criminal penalty for interference with public duties is a Class B misdemeanor, and this bill simply moves to a state jail felony. While the First Amendment protects the right to film law enforcement interactions, the right should not extend to behavior which obstructs a public servant's ability to do their job. Members, I'll be glad to answer any questions. This bill was brought to us by the Tarrant County District Attorney Phil Sorrell's office, and would be glad to answer any questions. Would like an opportunity to close when appropriate. And this bill has been passed by the Senate in the form of Senate Bill 1208 and is in the Criminal Jurisprudence Committee at this time.
Tarrant
Member, any
County.
questions for Chairman Cook?
I know that we're, thank you, Chairman
Let
Lauterbach.
me get,
Yeah.
please show Representative Bowers in attendance.
Thank you. I know we're short on time, so just a quick question.
Yes, sir.
You don't touch any of the conduct related to interference.
That's correct.
This is just the
We strike three
Just
words
straight-
and
straight
yeah,
penalty.
swap out
Okay.
Class B misdemeanor with state jail felony. That's it. Yep.
And this Senate bill is identical to that. It doesn't
Yeah.
tinker with the underlying offense.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Chair calls William Vassar.
This weasel right here, the one that prosecuted Manuel many times.
Sir, we show you registered as William Vassar, Assistant Criminal District Attorney.
Like Manuel Mata just got out of jail a few days ago. He did several weeks finishing his sentence for being convicted for recording police that this guy convicted him of. And it's not good enough for him. This guy wants Manuel Mata in prison for recording cops.
Let's see. Phil Sorrells, Tarrant County Criminal District Attorney.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and you're here today, you represent, who we said, and you're testifying on for against House Bill 3565.
For Chairman.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you. So my name is Bill Vaster. I've been a prosecutor at the Tarrant County DA's office for over 22 years. And I want to tell you all what I've been telling the juries the past 2 years when I've been trying these cases. Nobody is saying you can't film the police. Sadly, whether we like it or not, nobody is saying you can't cuss, scream at, or antagonize the police.
Sadly, whether you like it or not, we're not saying you can't cuss. This guy hates freedom and hates America. I wore this shirt today specifically for William Vassar.
What we are saying is you just can't interfere with their ability to investigate a case. What we are seeing in Tarrant County are individuals are inserting themselves on traffic stops. They're inserting themselves on domestic violence investigations. They're inserting themselves on warrant service where police officers are trying to arrest violent fugitives. They're running up to police officers with their cameras. They are screaming at them. They are cussing at them. They're demanding their name and badge number, and they are physically getting in their investigation. And the problem with that is it's a public safety issue, because I'm amazed in the 20 or 30 cases that I've dealt with in Tarrant County that nobody's gotten hurt. So why do we need to make this a felony? Because we are just having the same group of people are getting arrested over and over again. A couple days in the Tarrant County jail is worth it for them to post it on YouTube and make money off of it. So
He's lying. This guy is a liar. It is not worth it. Spending a couple of days in jail, getting your car towed, you probably lose your job, you lose your place to live. You got to spend thousands on a lawyer. It takes a year or so to beat the case. And in Tarrant County, everybody's getting convicted because the juries are all bootlickers. It is absolutely not worth it. And especially for Manuel Mata. Manuel Mata's videos aren't even monetized. And this bill is aimed directly at him. They really don't like him in Tarrant County, especially this guy. And this guy is just a liar, man, and a weasel. And nobody should believe anything he says. And he's proven it. All you got to do is listen to what he's saying. He's proven that he's a liar.
We're very in support of this bill. I would just ask that you consider this, because I think we really need to give our men and women in blue just a little breathing room when they're conducting investigations. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any members, any questions?
Just real quick, and
Moody.
thank you very much, Chairman. I appreciate that. If we're talking about law enforcement, frontline law enforcement, I'm just looking through the statute. A1, peace officer. A2 is emergency medical services. A3 is firefighter. A4 is the peace officer's service and the animal, the canine with them. A5 has to do with transmission. If this is really targeted to frontline law enforcement, maybe the penalty enhancement should be for certain ones of these and not the entire group of them. But if it's to be broader as the whole statute, because statute is more than just peace officers.
Sure.
It's a whole bunch of interaction. And it may be their position that it should apply to all of these, but I just, the examples keep being peace officer, peace
Right.
officer. So, you know, just a thought. I don't know if we want to look at stair stepping that penalty when we're talking about frontline law enforcement, or if we want to go to everybody that's covered under the statute. And we can talk about that later. I know we're short on time, but just a thought.
Sure. And I'll tell you that the only thing that I've seen personally in Tarrant County are our frontline officers.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman.
Representative Little.
Thank you, Chairman. So, Mr. Vassar, I had similar concern to Representative Moody. I think you could probably tailor this to peace officers in A1 and be better off. Certainly, I agree with you. It can endanger officers. One of the concerns that I have is the breadth of the statute as it relates to interrupting, disrupting, impeding, or otherwise interfering with. And it seems to me that captures a broad range of conduct, right? How are peace officers trained on what constitutes a violation of this provision? Because
Absolutely, it's too broad, because we've seen police officers get interrupted or distracted by acorns falling out of trees, and they empty clips over an acorn falling out of a car. So absolutely, it's too broad, it's too vague. Everything interrupts or disrupts these officers, and they use this penal code to arrest anybody for any little thing that they don't like.
it's pretty easy to imagine an interruption of a peace officer.
Sure.
And it certainly different from an assault or a true interference preventing a police officer from handcuffing somebody or something along those lines. So can you just explain that to me?
Sure. And I can explain what Fort Worth PD is training their officers to do.
Okay.
Fort Worth PD is telling their officers, find a line of demarcation, meaning that chair right there. Sir, you're welcome to film over there, but you've got to stay by that chair. Okay. So that's what we are training them to do.
That is what Fort Worth Police does. And then if you don't move to where they tell you to, they arrest you, and that is unlawful. You cannot tell people where they can stand, and they have to go over there behind that tree. But they're arresting these people for not moving when they tell them to, and this guy is prosecuting them, and the Tarrant County bootlicking juries are convicting them, and that's not good enough for William Vassar. He wants prison time for people recording the police.
Problem is, these individuals are not doing that, right? These officers are having to say 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times, you've got to stand over there. They give individuals multiple times. And then they finally say, look, if you do it one more time, we're going to arrest you. So these officers are trained to really, tell them to stay over there, be calm with them. They're welcome to film, but they've got to get out of their investigation.
Okay. Thank you. Chairman.
Representative Little, Bowers.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Representative Little, as well. Thank you for your testimony, and I guess I just have questions about the line of demarcation.
Sure.
And, like, what is the number, or is there a space that you think is significant?
So there's no bright line rule. And I think Florida right now is trying to pass maybe a 10 or 15 yard barrier. But in Texas, we don't have a bright line rule. So what Fort Worth PD is trying to say, pick a tree, pick a line in the concrete or a car, something roughly 10 yards for them to stay behind and film. And what's really amazing to me is that it's pretty impressive that when our officers are getting screamed at, that they are able to remain calm, say, look, sir, you're welcome to film over there. You just got to stand over there.
Thank you, and I appreciate that.
It is pretty impressive that they're able to remain calm, because in most situations they act like tyrant thugs. They lose their composure. They escalate to violence. But when there's somebody there recording and there's the risk of being exposed, they don't ever resort to violence. It is very incredible what a camera and a little bit of transparency, how that can keep these violent thugs in control. And this guy wants to get rid of that.
Because I guess I'm thinking about the de-escalation in that point
Sure.
in time when that person comes up and sees something that they think is out of line or whatnot. And, I think about my own family that's in law enforcement, and that it could create a public safety issue. But I also have concerns, because I feel like if they're filming and if no one catches it, then when something is out of line, and it would not be reported, it would go unreported.
Absolutely. And again, in what I've been telling juries the past 2 years, nobody's saying you can't film. That is 2025. We have that right. Everybody has cell phones.
We're not saying you can't record. We're just saying we want you to go so far away from the police that you can't record the police. That's all we're saying. You can record wherever you want, just not around our cops.
It's just, if an officer is conducting a traffic stop, right, and I'm the officer and I'm talking to somebody in a car, you can't be right here with a phone in my face screaming at me, right? And because what happens, obviously, is the officer turns to address that individual. Now they're not worrying about their investigation.
Right. Thank you.
Show me one video where an officer is conducting a traffic stop and somebody recording got right up in his face this close. Show me that.
That makes sense. Thank you so much.
This guy's a liar.
ADA Bastard. Let me see if I can touch on exactly what's going on here. In open air.
Anytime there's any video of the police being that close to a camera guy or a cop watcher, it's because the cops get in their face.
Investigations or open air inquisitions, wherever we're being called for service. And if you direct someone to go behind that chair in an open air, they simply move the chair.
Right.
So it usually results very, very decidedly into a call for additional units. And we actually are running into situations where investigations can't continue until other units get there, hold the crowd back, or a developing crowd situation. So these things are ever growing, especially in open air areas. So where crowds have congregated or begin to congregate. So this is would you agree with that? This is what we're seeing over and over again.
Absolutely. And it's also a resource situation, because a recent case that I tried, it was merely a DWI investigation, and we had 2 people showing up filming. Well, now, because it's one officer with a DWI investigation, we have to have backup, right? Oftentimes these interference cases, they turn into resisting cases. That is additional officers. In addition, these people, as part of their play with the police, then they're demanding a supervisor. So then that means a sergeant or a lieutenant now has to come out to the scene to deal with that person. So it's, in lack of a better terms, it's really taking officers off the street.
That's ridiculous. Everybody sees on these traffic stops how 20 cops show up to deal with somebody with a brake light out. If the cops would just leave the person recording alone and not try to boss them around and give them unlawful orders, we wouldn't ask for a supervisor or a sergeant.
Very, very common. Thank you. Representative Bowers.
Thank you, Chairman Lauterbach. So, have you seen an increase in this and like over what time period? I guess because as you said, ADA, that we're looking at now people have cell phones.
Right.
So
I would say for, and I'm just going to speak to Tarrant County and Fort Worth. I would say the past 2 years, this is really becoming a problem. And they kind of work in a network because they all have YouTube channels. So they'll be in Fort Worth one weekend, they'll be in Houston the next, then they'll be in Austin because, you know, they're monetizing this.
thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you all very much.
Chair calls Kirsten Budwine. Morning. We show you registered as Kirsten Budwine from the Texas Civil Rights Project.
Yes, sir.
And you are testifying on for or against House Bill 3565?
Against.
Against.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Go ahead.
HB 3565 increases the criminal penalty for the offense of interference with public duties from a Class B, which is 180 days in jail, up to a $2,000 fine, to a state jail felony, which is up to 2 years in jail and a $10,000 fine. Interfering with public duties is broadly defined as a person who interrupts, disrupts, impedes, or otherwise interferes with a peace officer while the officer is performing a duty. People who film the police or protest are often charged with this offense. Protesting and recording police officers are both protected speech under the First Amendment and should not be considered felonious conduct. As the previous witness stated, there is no bright line rule for uniform training for this type of offense. I'm aware of situations where officers who do not want to be filmed, period, or at all, have used this as a weapon against the person who is filming. We are completely against trying to increase the criminal penalties for what is not only protected speech, but what is oftentimes nonviolent conduct that poses no threat to law enforcement. This will have a chilling effect on the rights that we all hold near and dear to us. People will be deterred from holding officers accountable and protesting in fear of being stamped as a felon for the rest of their lives. Rather than punishing citizens for the nonviolent conduct, we should be encouraging this type of conduct. For these reasons, we are opposed to that was the identical bill, HB 3565. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Is anyone else who wishes to testify on for or against House Bill 3565? Now Chair recognizes Chairman Cook, close on the bill.
Thank you, Chairman. And Speaker Moody, I'm happy to, we've already made some notes there, and we're happy to limit it to law enforcement. We appreciate the committee's favorable consideration. I know we're at a late hour in the legislative process, but I would certainly appreciate the committee's favorable consideration and the ability to move it through with the suggestion from Speaker Moody. If there's not any other questions, I close.
Thank you, Chairman.
Thanks, sir.
If there's no objection, the bill will be left pending. Chair hears none in House Bill 3565.
Make sure you contact your representative and oppose this HB 3565. Make sure you share, like, and subscribe. I'll see y'all later.
D.